All right, so let's see this particular question. So in this question, we are given three tables. One is a driver table, another is a rights table, and the third one is the accepted rights table, right? So this data is corresponding to a cab company, which is called the Hopper company basically. And it has the data, I mean, as you can see, of all the drivers, when they joined, what was their join date. Also for all the rides, which ride was requested by which user, on what request date, right? That is given in the rights table. And also then we have the accepted rights in this accepted rights table, basically which right from this overall, list of rights got actually accepted by our driver ID, and then what was the details of each of the right, right? So obviously, it's not guaranteed that every right which is present in the rights table would also be present in the accepted rights table, because I mean some of the rights might not get accepted at all, right? So that is one case, but whatever rights are present in the accepted rights table, that would be guaranteed, I mean present in the rights table, right? So that is one thing. And this driver table is like a master data. I mean, it has the details of each of the driver ID with their joining date, right? That is the entire data that we are given with. Now, what we need to do is we need to write a solution to report the following statistics for each of the month of 2020, right? So we need to find the number of drivers currently with the Hopper company by the end of each month, right? And we also need to find the number of accepted rides in that particular month, right? Basically, in each month, we need to find the number of accepted rides and the number of drivers who are active, or basically who have joined till that particular month, right? So taking an example, if you see the output, so we have the month and we only need to report this for each of the month of 2020. We don't have to report it for any other year. We just have to report it for all the months of 2020, right? So if you see the output for month number 1 of 2020, we have two active drivers, right? And why do we have two active drivers? Because if you see over here, for the month of 2020 January, if you see one driver joined in that January 2020 itself, and then there was another driver with driver ID 10 who joined in the December 2019, right? So essentially, cumulatively, on January 2020, there were two drivers who were active because two drivers had joined by this particular month, right? Similarly, on the second month of 2020, another driver with driver ID 5 joined, the Hopper company, and now there are in total three active drivers till February 2020, that is the second month of 2020. So over here, if you see for the second month of 2020, now you have three active drivers, right? So in this way, you need to find the cumulative sum of, the total number of drivers who actually joined till that particular month, right? That's what we need to do as a part of this particular metric, right? And the other metric that we need to find is we need to find the accepted rights for every month, right? For every month of 2020 again, right? And that is quite straightforward. From this particular table, we can join with this particular rights table, inner join it maybe, and then we will get the requested add date, right? And now we can just count the number of accepted rights for every month using this particular column, using this particular date, right? So that will give us the accepted rights for every month of 2020 basically, and that then we can join with this particular output, the active drivers output that we got, so that we have one consolidated output to display, to return, right? So that is the entire question, and that's what we need to do. Now maybe you can just pause this video and try to think of a solution, and once you are done, you can come back and check the solution here. Okay, so now to solve this particular question, see, we will have to do it in two parts. First of all, we need to find the active drivers for every month of 2020. And then as a second part, separately, we can find the accepted rights as we discussed for every month of 2020, right? So to find the active drivers for every month of 2020, what we can do is we can actually, first of all, as a first step, we can just group by the month of this joining date and find the total number of drivers who joined on each of the month, right? We can just do that. And then what we can do is now we can find the cumulative sum for each of the month, right? So for example, when I say cumulative sum, I mean the running total kind of thing, right? So for example, if I do group by on month and then find the count of the driver IDs for who joined in each of the month, if you take the example of January 2020, you will get one, right? As the count of the total driver IDs who joined in January 2020, right? And if you see this particular date, for December 2019 also, you will get the count of the driver ID as 1, right? And now if I find a running total, I will get 1 plus 1, that is 2 for my January 2020 month, right? Similarly for Feb, the running total will be 1 plus 1, that is 2, plus 1 for the driver ID who got joined in the February month itself, right? So that now the running total will be 3. So in this way, I can just keep finding the running total after doing a group by on the month of the joining date, right? So that will actually give me the total active drivers till that particular month, right? So that is how I can find the active drivers. And also one important thing to note over here is that even though we are saying that we only need to find the active drivers for each month of 2020, but while we are actually calculating the cumulative sum, we need to have the data for the other years also, like the ones which are previous before 2020 as well, because then only we will get the right running total for all the months of 2020. So if there are some months, some drivers who joined before 2020, we will have to count them in the running total for all the months of the 2020 as well, because they were also active in each month of the 2020 because they joined before 2020, right? So the idea over here is that we cannot like filter the data before calculating the cumulative sum. First we will have to find the cumulative sum by using the entire data all the years which are even like before 2020. And after we have found the running total, the cumulative sum for each of the month, then we can just filter out only the records for 2020, right? So that is one small thing that we will have to keep in mind. And then we can separately find the accepted rights, which is quite straightforward. We can just group by on the month from the requested at date and then find the count of the distinct right IDs from the accepted rights table. And that will give us the accepted rights for each month. And then we can only do it for the year 2020, right? So that's it. I mean, this is the entire solution. Now maybe we can just jump to the ID and try to write a query for this particular solution. All right, so now let's write the query that we discussed. So first of all, what we need to do is to find the active drivers. We first need to group by on each of the month and the year, right? And then we need to find the count of the total drivers who joined on each of the month, right? That's what we need to do. And after that, we will be finding the cumulative sum, the running total for each of the month, right? So first of all, let me just group by the data from the drivers table on the year and the month, right? So I will say this, and then what I can do is I can group by the year part of the join date, right, like this, and also the month part of the join date, right, like this, right? And now I can select these two columns over here, and I can just take count 1 as my total active drivers for every month, right? And I can just alias this particular column as year and also this particular column as month, right? Now if I run this and also expand this, just give me a second. So for every month, of every year, I will get the total active drivers. Now these active drivers are not the actual active drivers that we are intending to calculate. These are the ones who actually joined on each of the month of each of the year, right? So that's what this data tells us. Now what we need to do is we need to find a running total for each of the month as we discussed, right? But before doing that, if you see over here, we are not having all the months of 2020 over here, right? Because obviously I mean, the data is like that, right? In the drivers table, we don't have, for every month of 2020, some driver who joined the Hopper company, right? So there are some holes in the data when it comes to the months of the year 2020. But then in our final output, we need to report for every month of 2020, right? So that's why what we will do is we will just try to first generate a sequence of months from 1 to 12 for for the year 2020, and then we can just use that combination to actually use as the year and the month. And wherever there is no data in the original table for that particular month, we can just have 0 as the total active driver count for that particular month, right? So what we can do is we can actually use a recursive CT to actually generate a sequence of months starting from 1 to 12, right? And that will be all the months of 2020, and then we can just left join that data set with this particular data set and use the year and month from that particular data set so that we have all the combinations of years, I mean, of 2020 and all the months from 1 to 12, right? So that is just to prevent the holes in the months in the year 2020 in the data. So what I'll do is I will just create a recursive CTE over here. I can just call it as CTE all months like this. And now what I will do is I will select one as month because I need to start from the first month, right? And year I will just hard code as 2020 because I need all the months of 2020, right? So I will just hard code the year as 2020 and this will be my anchor member. And now I will just union this with the recursive member of the recursive CT. So that will be select month plus one, right? Comma year from this CT itself, right? So this will be my recursive part and I will have to keep doing this till my uh, month is actually lesser than 12, right? Because I need from 1 to 12. So I will go till 12. After once I am, at 12 or before 12, I will just terminate because this month plus 1 will actually give me 12, right? In the last iteration, right? So that's what I'm going to do in this recursive CT. And also, if you're not really clear how a recursive CT basically works and how this all is going to happen actually, you can actually refer another video that I recorded to solve another problem. I have actually, discussed about the recursive CTs in great depth over there, and I've taken a lot of time to actually explain that how a recursive CT basically functions. So if you have any doubts around recursive CTs, you can just refer that particular video. I will attach the link with this particular video. Okay, so now moving on. Now what we need to do is we need to actually, join this particular CT with this particular result set, and then, we can take the year and month for 2020 from this particular uh, recursive CT basically, so that we have all the months of the year 2020, right? So now before doing this left join, what I can do is I can actually, uh, you know, put this particular result set also in another CT so that it will be simple to read and understand, right? I can call it like this. And now what I will do is I will just select from my CT all months, right? Call it A. And see now what I will do is I will do a full join, right? With my CT active drivers, that I have. Just a minute. Let me just copy it from here, in fact, right? And I need to do this on A dot, year equal to B dot year and A dot month is equal to B dot month. And I will just tell you why I need to do it on, why I need to do a full join and not a left join, right? So now if you see this particular result set is corresponding to CTE active drivers, right? Now if you see over here, you also have years other than 2020 over here, right? So you have 2019 and you have 1 month from 2021, right? But if you talk about this CTE all months, this will only have all the months only for the year 2020, right? So, if I do a left join on this particular CTA underscore all months, right, and take, the year and the month, whichever is available in this particular CT, I will only be, retaining the 2020 year, right, all the months of 2020 year, right. But as we discussed earlier, we also need to have, the years before 2020 so that we can actually account for, the drivers who joined before 2020 in the running totals for each of the month of the 2020 that we are going to take, right? So actually before taking the cumulative sum, as we were discussing, we need to actually retain all the years before 2020, right? And that's why we need to do a full join because these years before 2020 or even after 2020 for that matter will not be present in the CTE all months, uh, this particular data set because we haven't included any of that. We have just included all the 12 months of 2020 over here, right? So like there are two purposes now of this particular join. One is that, for all the years before 2020 or even after 2020, even though we are not going to use the years after 2020, but then even we can just say like all the years other than 2020, we need to take those years from, this CT active drivers, right? And for all the months of 2020 actually, which are not present in CTE active drivers, right? Because there was no data for that particular month of 2020, we need to take, those months for 2020 from CTE underscore all months, right? So that's why we need to do a full join over here, right? Now, I hope you understood what I'm trying to say. So what I will do is now, I will just do it this way, and then I will just select over here a dot year like this. And what I will do is, if a dot year is actually null, right? So why will this particular year will be null in the A table? Because see, it will be null whenever we are having year as 2019 or 2021, right? Because those particular years won't be present in my CT underscore all months table. And for those years, they will be null in the year and the month column in this particular CT, right? Because we are doing a full join, right? So when we encounter such a year, either 2019 or 2021 or any year apart from 2020, we will just use the year column from the B table, which is my CTE active drivers, right? So what I will do is I will use a coalesce over here now. Just want to make sure that you are understanding what I'm doing. That's why I'm just explaining a bit in detail while I'm writing. So now I will just do it b.year like this, and I will just alias this as year, right? Like this. And I will do the same thing to get the month also, right? I will use a coalesce and I will just replace it with month like this and like this, right? And now what I will do is I will get my active drivers from the B table, right? Like this. And see now wherever my active drivers are null, basically they will be null for the months of 2020 which are like not present in this particular CT active drivers, right? So for those months, I need to replace the null with 0 because I'm saying essentially for that particular month, there was no new driver who joined, right? So that's why I'm just coalescing this particular column with 0, right? Like this. And I can just alias this back to active drivers like this, right? Now if I run this just to check the output, now you will see for every year, right? And for every month of every year, whatever is present with us, we have the active drivers, right? And for every month of the year to 2020, even if those months were not present in our original data, we still have a record, but corresponding to those particular months, we have active drivers as 0, right? And in fact, I can just order by year and month so that you can visualize this particular result set properly. So now if you see for all the years, if you see 2019 for month 12, we have active driver 1, right? That was what was expected. And then for all the months, right, from 1st till 12 month of 2020, we have all the months now, and we have the active drivers for all of them. And wherever there was no record for a given month of 2020, we have active driver as 0, right? You can see over here. Now what we need to do is now we need to find the running total, right? Now we need to find the cumulative sum uh, till every month over here, right? So what we can now do is I can again like take this particular result set in another CT. Let me just remove the order by, right? Now what I will do is I will just maybe call it as all month uh, active drivers maybe, right? And now what I need to do is now I need to select year. Let me just write the from first to get the IntelliSense. So I will need to select from this particular CT. And what I need is I need the year column. I need the month column now, right? And what I need to do is I need to get the running total. So I will get the sum of the active drivers, right? Over order by year and month, right? So this will give me the running total for every month of every year that is available over here, right? And I can just rename this to active drivers again, right? And I can just run this just to check the output. Now, if you see for every year, And for every month, we have the active drivers, that is the running total of the active drivers that we initially had, right? So now you can see for first month of 2020, we have active drivers as 2. For second month of 2020, we have active drivers as 3, and this is same as what we were seeing in the sample output, right? So now we are close. Now just what we need to do is we just need to get rid of the year 2019 and 2021, right? Now we don't need any year other than 2020, not even the ones before 2020, because we have already calculated the cumulative sum and now we can get rid of them, right? So that's what we can do essentially. So what I will do is I will just maybe select on top of this particular result set, right? I can do select star from this particular result set, right? And I can just uh, filter only on year equal to 2020 now, right? So this will give me now only the data for all the months of the 2020 year, and that's exactly what I wanted, right? And this I can now put in another CT and call it as maybe active drivers final, something like this. Let me just collapse this a bit so that it is visible, right? So we are done with calculation of the active drivers matrix. Now what we need to do is, as a second part, now we need to calculate the accepted writes for every month, right? So for that, we just need to do a simple group by. Let me just write the query over here. So what we can do is, we can just, first of all, select from the accepted writes, because that's where, the accepted writes are, right? And I will also have to join this with the writes table, right? Why I need to join with the writes table? Because the requested date for every write that got accepted is actually in the writes table, right? There is no date column in the accepted writes, right? So we will be using the requested at date for all the writes that got accepted over here in the accepted writes table. And for that reason, for getting that requested at date, we will have to join with the writes table, right? So I can just join on, a dot write ID equal to b dot write ID, right? Like this. And see, now what I need to do is I need to select, from, actually I need to first group by, right? So I will just group by the year of requested date, basically, right? And that will be coming from actually the B table, right? B dot requested at, and also the month of requested at, right? B dot requested at, right? And these two columns now I can select over here, right? Like this, and also maybe alias them as year and as month, right? And now I need to calculate the count of the writes, right? And for that, I can just do a simple, uh, count one, right? And that will be my accepted writes for every month of every year that we have, right? Like this. If I run this now, you will see that I get the accepted writes for every month of every year that we had, right? But also over here, as you can see, again, we, don't have all the months over here for the year 2020, right? We only have, the ones that are available in the accepted writes table, right? And not all the months will be available in the accepted writes, because it will not happen that in all the months they will have, at least one accepted write, right? So there will be some missing months for year 2020 in the original data. So again, we will have to, like, just fill in the holes that we have in the sequence. So what we can do is we can just join with the active drivers data set now, result set now, so that, and we can left join on that so that we can use the year and month column from that particular data set where we already have the combination of, all the months of 2020 year, right? And we can use that particular month and year column, and then accepted writes we can take from here and coalesce with to 0 wherever we have a null, right? Wherever we don't have data for a given month for accepted writes, we can just coalesce it to 0, right? So essentially, let's do that now. Let me just put this in another CT, right? I can just call it as CT underscore accepted writes now, like this, right? And now I can just select from CT underscore act all months active drivers, or sorry, the final, right? CT underscore active drivers final. And see now over here, I have already filtered for the year 2020, so I don't need to do anything. I can just simply left join now with my CT underscore accepted rights over here, call it B, and I can do this on A dot month equal to B dot month, right? Like this. And also see now I just need to do it for the year 2020 over here, right? So what I can do is I can actually put a filter over here, right? So in the accepted rights table, if you see, we haven't like still put a filter on the year 2020, right? We also have data for the other years as well, right? So what we can do is in this particular CT definition itself, we can just put that filter over here after the joining condition, right? We can just say where my year of b dot request date is equal to 2020. Now this will only give me the data for the year 2020, right? So now I can just join on a dot month equal to b dot month when I'm joining with the active drivers data set, because now for in both the data set we only have data for the year 2020. So now all what we need to do is we need to join with the month, right? That's it. So now what we can do is I can just select maybe a dot month now from here, right? And then I will get the a dot active drivers again from A, right? And then I will get the b dot accepted rights from B, that is CT underscore accepted rights, right? And then this particular thing I can just coalesce with a 0 wherever there is a null, right? Like this. And again alias this back to accepted rights, right? And this should be my final output. So now if you see over here, for every month of the year 2020, we have the active drivers and we also have the accepted rights, right? And that's what we were looking for in the sample output as well, right? So if you check this, this is the sample output. We wanted the month, all the months from 1 to 12 of year 2020 and the corresponding active drivers and the accepted rights, right? And you can really validate this particular output with the one that we just got here, right? It will exactly match. So that's the solution for this particular problem. I hope you understood it well, right? And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.